Lew, why don't you open it up and tell the folks a little bit about Manufacturing Talk Radio and how we got here today.
First of all, we are here today to discuss the solutions of skills gap, which everybody seems to be aware of, and it's in every newspaper, television show, talk radio, talk television, and everybody knows about it. Not everyone knows the cures and the solutions. And Tim and I, from our metals manufacturing company, 2 years ago decided that we are going to jump into the market, and we know a lot of people, we deal with a lot of manufacturers, not only internationally, but primarily nationally. And we hear and see the problems that manufacturers are having. And we decided that, okay, we're going to do something about it. So in October of 2013, we decided, hey, why not a radio show? And 2 weeks later, we did the first show, and we've now done approximately 100 shows, and November will be 2 years that we're doing it. We've also now been going out on the road, taking the show on the road, coming to events like this, and we are very gratified to do it. We feel as though we're giving back and adding a lot of information that others might not have available to them. Tim and I are in the metals industry collectively 75 years. He's been in it more than I have. So we decided to give back, and we're happy to be here, and we're honored to be here. And by the way, we are going to have a slide presentation, and at the end of our event here, the slides are available at our table if you wish to take the slides away. The solutions are rather simple, sort of. Recruit, retain, and retrain our employees. And we will go into greater detail as we go through the show about those issues. A lot of information has already been told here, but we're going to go into depth. We're going to tell some anecdotal stories about companies that we've run into and how they're dealing with some of these issues differently than what we've so far heard. So, Tim? Part of the problems is that this is not a new problem. This problem has existed in our country before. The closest time that this happened was in the 1940s, when Henry L. Stimson, Secretary of War, that was before we had a Defense Department, when he came out and made a statement to prepare for the war effort that they needed 5 million new positions to defend our country. And he also came out and said that of the 5 million new jobs, 2.5 million of them had to be women, because the men were going off to do what they had to do overseas. And there were some very interesting rules and regulations and so on that they had to follow to protect women in those job functions, but nonetheless, they were still putting in a 48-hour week. That's all they were allowed to work. I don't think that happens today anymore. But that was the beginning of solving the skills gap issue of that time. And right now, we are facing potentially a 3.4 million job gap over the next 10 years. We can bring business back. We're reshoring. We can bring it back. New companies are forming because of new technology and so on, but they don't have the proper skills to run those jobs. So there's going to be 3 million plus people that we need to get into jobs. And it was mentioned, Ray mentioned before that he checked that there are companies here in New Jersey that they need 100 of this, 200 of that, and they don't have people to fill the jobs. And this is a very serious problem. As it is right now, we are at a point, I just read a research paper 2 weeks ago, that the United States right now is only 5% more expensive than products that are coming out of China. So they're going down, we're coming up, and that spread is not as great as it used to be. There's no more 20, 30, 40% variance in manufacturing costs. So that's a good news. And even though we are coming out with 3 million graduates, high school graduates every year, they still need the skill sets to go into manufacturing. And part of the problem that we see and we hear is that parents need to understand more about what manufacturing is for their kids today, and that not everybody is going to be a brain surgeon. And as pointed out, the jobs will be available for them if they decide to go into this particular venue of manufacturing.
So let's talk about solutions. We have done over 100 radio shows, as Lew indicated. We've talked to probably 200 people, a lot of people from the manufacturing industry, obviously. We've also talked to people from associations. We've talked to people from the federal government, the state government, even local governments, and talked to them all about this particular topic, among other topics. But what are the real solutions? This is a list of the solutions that we're going to go through with you today. The first one is always the one that's kind of scary. You know, what's going to happen in this area of robotics? Are we all going to be replaced by machines? And I assure you that that's not true, but there's some very interesting developments in the machine world. Our friend in the upper right-hand corner, that's a gentleman by the name of Baxter. Baxter is a machine that interacts with humans. It has 17 sensors so that it knows that there are humans around it. It's designed to work next to humans. But it's designed to do repetitive, mundane tasks. So it is not going to replace the bright, talented, skilled worker. It's going to replace and be used in those jobs where a couple of things occur. It's just the same thing over and over and over, and where a human is limited in how much weight they can lift, Baxter and its little brother Sawyer are not. Now, the interesting part of those robots is that Baxter, fully configured with extra armature, movable from spot to spot, is a $50,000 investment. Sawyer is about 2/3 of that. So, you know, the ROI is pretty quick on a robot like that. In the upper left, you see Asimo. Asimo is in Japan. And in the lower right and left, you see two robots that are being developed with a more human face to them. Those two on the bottom are being developed as receptionists. Again, a repetitive, over and over, say the same thing. Now, a lot of people would say, you know, gee, that's kind of freaky to talk to a robot, but then we all go to Disney World and we have a great time talking to animatronics. So they're not quite as terrifying as we all think. The other thing to look at is in your own shop, if you're a manufacturer, what can you automate? You know, one of the things that's happening here at NJIT is they have a factory of the future that they're kind of rebirthing so that it touches everything that's occurring on the factory floor. Take a look at what you can automate in your factories. Now, you also heard about the industrial Internet of Things. I mean, it's to the point where we can attach a sensor to a hammer to know how many times the hammer is struck upon a nail to find out whether the user of the hammer is using it efficiently. That's where technology is going. We're in a period of very rapid technological change and development. And that's the real excitement about what's happening in the worlds of robotics and automation and new tech. Not to mention that in a couple of weeks we'll be down at Fab Tech. That's over in Chicago, where it'll be a little chilly in November. But they have like about 12 million pounds of machinery on the floor there. And you would think that you would see people in overhauls, greasy nails, running those machines. It's not what you see. You see those guys back there, the young and bright, with their iPads running incredibly powerful machines. That's the future of manufacturing.
And we did see that, by the way, last year at FabTech.
We did.
We did. We saw machines clanking away, cutting, pounding, and so on, and it was all done by iPad, which is pretty cool. The educational system and the educational institutions, like NJIT and others, play a very big and important role in developing the young students to migrate to manufacturing, where they, their compensation packages and their career paths are very good today, not like it was your grandfather's business a long time ago. There are companies that we have interviewed who have had to find their own ways, because not all locations all over the United States have NJITs. And take, for example, a company called Stihl, S-T-I-H-L. Some of you who know anything about tools know what Stihl is. They make cutting saws. And they have an employment pool of 700 people. They're in a small town in New Hampshire, and they've got major problems trying to find people to come into the manufacturing sector. They went to their school system and said, look, we would like to start a training program with your help, and we would like to put it out to other manufacturing companies within the area to join in and participate in the cost and also participate in the benefits of training locals to work either at Stihl or to work at some of the other manufacturing companies. And it turned out to be quite successful. I think there were about 3 or 4 other companies that did join, and it is successful, and that's one variation that we heard. Another company that we've spoken to and met a couple of times, actually, Powell Manufacturing in Phoenix, Arizona. They're having a severe problem because they produce aircraft parts, very high precision, critical parts, life and death parts. They couldn't find people to hire. They found a motorcycle shop where kids were allowed to go in with their motorcycles and fix their motorcycles, and like a club, they would be fixing their motorcycles, fixing somebody else's. And they went there and approached some of these kids and said, listen, you've got great talent, you've got great insight into using your hands. How would you like to learn a trade and come work for our company? So that proved to be quite successful. They got a lot of kids that were able to do that, and they were now no longer just working to be able to support their motorcycle habit. They were actually earning, after 2 or 3 years, into the $70,000 area. So there's a lot of novel ways that companies have to find their way in areas where the NJITs do not exist. I know that we have North Bergen STEM Academy here, and guys, stick with it. You'll have a great career. And I think that's something that you've already made that decision. I think some of the problems that exist is with the misconception of manufacturing. Your grandfather's manufacturing company with oil slick on the floor, steel chips on the floor, greasy, grimy, unpleasant environments, and so on. That's changed. The old companies are still there, but they're dying out. The new companies, and I know this week there's going to be a lot of plant tours. I know that Sandvik Coromant is going to be, have what, 150 people come to your plant? 400 people coming all week. Good. I'm glad that I have all my information. So 400 people. And I might say that also Manufacturing Talk Radio, we're not as big as Sandvik, and we're taking our 15 students from Passaic Institute of Technology to Oxford Instruments in Carteret. So we're looking forward to participating in this also, and we're trying to give a lot of support to the manufacturing day events.
So let's talk about a direct takeaway that certainly manufacturers could use, and that is rebranding manufacturing. We obviously want to get the message out that manufacturing is advanced manufacturing, that what we're talking about is new, fresh, exciting, technologically driven, and the way to do that is with social media. That is also a very inexpensive way to do it. For anybody who is in marketing, looking at the expense of doing marketing, social media is really a really terrific value for getting your image out there. But you have to have someone really in your shop that sticks with it every day, that tweets every day, that updates your Facebook page every day. But what's missing here, and this is very true in manufacturing, it's also true in lots of other industries, is we have a great story to tell, and we don't tell it. We accomplish terrific things, and then we don't show anyone the end product. It might be in a brochure, it might be a couple of images on our website, but that's about it. But we could be putting things out on Facebook and tweeting about them, and even using Periscope, which is a live feed on Twitter, every day about the exciting things that we do in manufacturing. And that's one of the places that we have to do it. The reason that's important is because the youth, the young folks, whether they're Gen X, Y, or the millennials, that's how they look at us. They check Facebook before they check the newspaper. They don't necessarily Google and go to our website. They'll see what we're tweeting about. So if we want to communicate to a younger set with the very folks that we want to bring in, that's our pathway to do it, is with social media. And hopefully, we'll help the parents understand that manufacturing isn't dark, dirty, and dangerous anymore. That it is, in fact, truly run by high-tech, high-touch technology and people who are very bright to use it. I have to tell you, I have a smartphone up here. It's smarter than I am. There's no doubt about it. When I have a problem with my smartphone, I go to my kids and I say, make it do that. Now, I could have spent an hour trying to make it do that, and astonishingly, they go, here, go that. And they literally do it in seconds. This is how they grew up. And the generation behind them, they're going to be that much more advanced. They just understand the technology. We grew up with television. They're growing up with this.
In the corporate structure today, as in the past, we've had the HR department. The HR department took care of payroll, health insurance, hiring and firing, handling the lawsuits when employees sue you. That's all going to change and should change. They should be a resource. They should be the ones going out looking for the skilled labor, skilled workers on a different basis. They should not necessarily be the human resource administrator. They should be involved with the NJITs and other organizations such as that. The payroll today is done by outside companies. HR doesn't have to do payroll anymore. You have insurance companies or insurance agents that take care of your insurance. HR doesn't have to do that anymore. Pensions, a lot of companies don't have pensions anymore, so you don't have to do that anymore. The name of the game here is recruit, retrain, and retain and retrain what you've got to work with. And the tribal knowledge that exists within the companies when people are about to retire have to be transferred to new people. And actually, Tim and I were talking about it last night over dinner that, wow, maybe companies should think about, you have Joe, he's 64 years old. Maybe Joe should work in a team of newbies and train them right on the job, right on the floor. You might even want to give Joe a little incentive to do that, to put up with the youngsters who know more than they do. It's a thought, and these are the out-of-the-box type thinking that companies have to do in order to move forward, have sustainability within their companies. Tim?
You may not appreciate it because you're here in New Jersey. I actually live in Georgia. My kids go to school in Georgia. I'm going to use this analogy, and then I'm going to deny I ever said it, but it's going to be recorded, so I may be in real trouble here. The graduation rate in the state of Georgia is 47th or 8th in the country, and I think they believe 50 is the top, and they're gunning for it. I've never understood why a state that struggles with its graduation rate doesn't go to a state that's got a terrific graduation rate and say, how do you teach it, how do you test it? And just copy the model. And it turns out because we have so many local school districts and local decisions being made that we have no real unified program for education. In this state, in terms of the government being involved, you're in a terrific place. You may not recognize it because you're sitting here, but the state government of New Jersey is doing some wonderful things in terms of programs for its institutions like NJIT, for its students that are coming up through the school system. They have created programs that are truly going to translate into New Jersey having an advantage in getting companies to come here and implant their manufacturing facilities because they have brought the students. You're well advanced of many of the other states in the country. The other states are playing catch up. And I'd be surprised if they weren't on your door going, how do you do it? How do you test it? How do you teach it? Because you're way down the road on them. And I want to congratulate everyone who's involved in the state government of New Jersey for the incredible accomplishments and the programs you've put together for the students and the manufacturers of the state of New Jersey.
So another one of the solutions that is becoming obvious for us to use, and that's the industry associations. NJIT, of course, is an educational institute, educational facility, but you have so many organizations out there. NJMEP, you have the SME, you have the NAM, National Association of Manufacturers, which is the largest member organization in the country. You have FMA, the Fabrication and Manufacturing Association, which we're going to be at in November, I believe. You have Manufacturing Institute. You have the AMT. You have WIM, Women in Manufacturing. There are literally thousands of associations that have certification programs where youngsters and people who need to change their career path, people who have lost jobs, they're in their 40s, they don't know what to do, contact your local community colleges, contact the associations. They need you. They need millions of people over the next several years to fill these new high-tech manufacturing positions. Many of the quality associations to benefit from are worth joining and making relationships and getting your name out there. And the ISM, for example, the Institute of Supply Management, has a fabulous training program and certification program, which we are very much involved with ourselves. We have them on our radio show every month to talk about the economics of the country and what's happening in the United States on a month-to-month basis.
I want to talk about this one because I remember a scene in Back to the Future where Marty McFly and Doc Brown were trapped back in the 1950s, and one of the parts broke. And Doc Brown said, "Oh, no wonder it's a piece of junk. It's made in Japan." And Marty McFly said, "What are you talking about, Doc? All the great stuff's made in Japan." Well, in the 1990s, the United States companies decided they wanted to get really cheap labor, so they moved a lot of production over to China. What they discovered was that there's such a huge cultural divide between the two countries and a communications gap between the two countries is that what you got back was Doc Brown's interpretation of the product. Quality wasn't there. Right now, the world looks at the United States of America as producing the top quality products anywhere in the world. They want to buy from us because we produce the quality. That is incredibly important when it comes to reshoring, which Ray, you touched on earlier, jobs coming back to America. We've been watching that and talking about that in the radio show for several months now. But if the United States cannot supply the workers that the manufacturers need in this country, they're going to again twist it around and they're going to start offshoring component manufacturing to someplace else. You're also seeing a rebirth of the maquiladoras in Mexico and what they also call shelter companies. And that is a way to produce in Mexico without actually implanting a plant in Mexico in a shelter company or actually implanting a plant through a maquiladora. That's beginning to take off again because there's some very good quality workers in Mexico. So again, if we can't produce the workers, the manufacturer's not simply going to go, "Oh, okay, I quit, I'm going to close my company." They're going to find a way and they're going to move more jobs offshore or nearshore. The other thing they're going to do, and there's always pressure on the federal government to increase the number of H-1B visas. In other words, we want to bring tech workers in from around the world into this country. So I think it's important to understand that manufacturing will find a way. And we have to be responsive and continue to be leading in order to counter that so jobs don't move offshore.
Well, I see Ray has his hook ready to drag us off, and I thought that we actually negotiated an extra 1 minute, but 1 minute. I'm now down to 1 minute. Okay, so in summary, as Tim just said, U.S. manufacturers are not going to give up. We didn't give up during the Second World War, won the war, created some of the best products, war products, and other products after the war that were utilized in everyday life. So manufacturers are not going to give up. Right now, we're in a time frame of very rapid technological change, which means more manufacturing, which means more people have to learn the technology in order to be in manufacturing. The projected 2 or 3 million vacant jobs, we've got them now, we're going to have more of them later. We need to have the NJITs and the associations doing certifications and training and convincing those who need to be trained and allowing their kids to be trained to go into a manufacturing environment. The economy is not particularly predictable, as we all have lived through ups and downs, particularly the last 7-8 years. We, Manufacturing Talk Radio, will continue to support manufacturing. We're having a lot of fun doing this. We're not making a lot of money at it, but we are enjoying it. We're meeting a lot of great people and interesting people, bright people, and we're going to continue with that. So mfgtalkradio.com on Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in. You'll find it very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.